Did. I'm your host, Melissa Woody, here with my co-host, Janine Muniz. And today we have
Hi,
a very
everyone.
special guest. Yes, Ken Silva, who is the editor-in-chief of Headline USA, online editorial covering, it's like the alternative to Con Inc., right? It's like real conservative news, correct?
Yeah, that's correct. I took over as editor in February. Headline USA used to be sort of a mainstream MAGA-leaning news site. I'm kind of trying to make it, I would describe it as like a working man's version of the American Conservative. So we started like reprinting all antiwar.com's articles. We've got another great paleo-libertarian kind of guy named Jose Nino who's breaking down a lot of the foreign policy stuff. So yeah, we're out here making moves.
Sweet. And then you're also affiliated with the Libertarian Institute. You contribute to them as well, right? And we're having you on today because you have just really done some great work on the Thomas Crooks case, which, for those who don't know, Thomas Crooks is the shooter at Butler last year. It's been a little over a year. And for some very bizarre reason, we know about as much about Thomas Crooks today as we did a full year ago. Which is to say absolutely nothing, right? So you've been digging on this case for about a year and you have stayed on it and you haven't let it go. So tell us what you found in this last week.
Sure, absolutely. So yeah, we're starting to put together kind of a rough picture of Thomas Crooks, but that's totally thanks to local researchers, journalists, local institutions like the community college. We haven't gotten anything but empty calories from the Secret Service, the FBI, the ATF, and all the other federal agencies that should have all the information on this kid. Yeah, when the shooting happened last July 13th, I had just started working in conservative media like 2 years earlier after doing all local news for the first 10 years of my career. So I missed January 6th. I missed the 2020 election. I miss all these other major stories that define the next 4 years. So when the shooting happened, I'm like, okay, this is going to be my story. I'm going to try to be the lead reporter on this. To that end, one of the first major scoops that I broke was actually getting Thomas Crooks's autopsy and toxicology reports, which was a journey in itself. I guess let's go back to Butler on July 13th. Assuming he's the only shooter, which I think I wouldn't make that assumption, but the evidence is kind of pointing in that direction. He gets off 8 shots in the first 5 seconds. A local cop from the ground, after like the first 5 seconds, shoots the 9th shot in return, and either hits him, hits his gun, or somehow disables him because he stops firing. And it's an entire 10 seconds later that the Secret Service sniper puts that final 10th shot through his neck, out the shoulder, and then throughout the other side of his shoulder. So really, one of the biggest scandals here that nobody is talking about is the fact that the Secret Service literally didn't do anything that day. They did not save the president's life. They didn't even stop the shooter. It took 15 seconds for them to return fire. And,
so nuts.
If I were just to stop talking right now for 15 seconds, it would get pretty awkward. So that just...
Okay, boom, stop talking.
Yeah.
Let's do it. Ready?
All right, let's
Hold
do
on.
it, yeah.
Do it. Boom. Shots returned.
Oh, that was awkward. I almost couldn't do it.
That's nuts.
And so just imagine also he got off 8 shots in the first 5 seconds. He could have conceivably gotten off his whole 30-round clip. And then God knows if he actually, some of those shots went in the directions and discombobulated the counter snipers, he could have put in another mag and kept firing. So this local cop who did the 9th shot and disabled him, his name's Aaron Zalaponi. He's like a local Adams Township guy, works part-time on the Butler SWAT team. Absolutely an American hero. He should be a household name. I think July 13th should be Aaron Zalaponi Day. In any event, after all this goes down, Crooks's body is left on the rooftop until 6 a.m. the next day, July 14th.
What?
Where he's then taken from the AGR rooftop and not to the Butler coroner's office. Instead, he's transferred to Allegheny County to be examined there. The reason we have for that is because Allegheny County includes Pittsburgh. It's conceivably has more advanced facilities for conducting autopsy and toxicology reports. However, we've also gotten conflicting reasons for sending the body there. At one point, the Butler coroner said, hey, we didn't want to send the dead firefighter to our own facilities because of possible media attention. So they sent Corey Comparatori to Allegheny County too, along with Crooks. And for all of these advanced facilities that Allegheny County is said to have, there's some serious anomalies in the reports, which we'll get to. But first, this report still isn't public in the weeks and months after the shooting. And yeah, by the way, you guys can interrupt me anytime.
Real quick, how far is Allegheny County from Butler?
It's probably about 45 minutes. It's not.
Okay.
It's not very close.
Yeah, so that's pretty far. We've let the body sit there, I guess I don't want to say decompose, but it does process, right? It does. You need to, if you want to get accurate samples of what's going on in this body, you need to get samples, blood samples, skin samples, hair samples immediately, right?
For sure.
Yeah, you don't wait 12 full hours.
Yeah,
and then transfer for 45 minutes, right?
Yeah, that's exactly right. Yeah, when the sun's coming up and like this, that's a hot rooftop.
And it's already July, so you're already speeding up the rate of decomposition with the summer, the heat, and everything. So that's nuts to me.
It is nuts. And the Butler Eagle, a local newspaper, is the first to report these facts. I think maybe late July, early August. And when I was reading about this, that immediately set off red flags. And so I filed requests for the autopsy and toxicology reports with Butler County and Allegheny County. And that set off about a 3-month legal battle where Butler County told me, hey, we sent the body to Allegheny County. You got to ask them. Allegheny County tells me, even though we perform the autopsy and toxicology exams, it's Butler County's jurisdiction. So I had to go through a whole long appeals process. They also denied it, saying this is part of an investigation, even though there's clear provisions in Pennsylvania open records law that says that autopsy reports are subject to disclosure. Eventually, I finally get the reports in October. We published them. The most significant part, by the way, I forgot to mention that 10 days after the kid dies, they release his body for cremation. Which is just another layer. They also hosed down the rooftop, sprayed off all the blood. So I get the autopsy report in August. Yeah.
At no point the feds didn't take over any of this. This is all still left to local. From what it sounds like, local. Obviously, the coroner, the autopsy, but also cleanup. Correct.
Well, the feds were actually in charge. This is all the FBI's crime scene.
Okay, so they came into Allegheny County.
Yeah. So
okay.
During the medical exam, there were a couple FBI agents and a couple Pennsylvania state police in there as part of the exam. They were present during the examination.
Okay.
So going back to getting the report after this long appeals process, I publish it. The most significant thing that I could see at the time was the 5 gunshot wounds in the left side of the neck, out, back in the shoulder. The bullet fragmented and made 2 re-exit wounds. So there are 5 wounds in total. Despite that, the kind of lower key controversy is that, who shot Crooks? Was it the Secret Service guy or was it the local cop? And since the body was cremated with bullet fragments still in the shoulder, we'll never know for sure. Although I think that all the evidence points to the local cop because Crooks stopped firing. So why else would he have stopped firing after that 9th shot? In any event, we'll never know for sure because they cremated it. Bullet fragments left inside. I guess fast forward until just a couple of weeks ago, the toxicology report, I didn't see anything interesting other than the fact that they seemingly didn't test for psychotropic drugs. But I was told by a couple of experts at the time that when the cause of death is clear, where in this case it is, he got a bullet through the neck, they don't do above and beyond testing. So I'm kind of like, well, yeah, they should have gone above and beyond considering the historical significance. But, you know, what can you really say at this point? However, that brings us to the biggest story I've done to date. An online Twitter sleuth contacted me a couple weeks ago and said, hey, if you looked at this toxicology report, it's listing all these specimens. I got it right here for Crooks. They collected 8 different specimens from him. 4 vials of heart blood, a vial of urine, some eye fluid, some bile, and envelope full of hair. And these items are listed 1 through 8. But when you go below in the findings, they only list the findings for 1, 2, 4, 5, and 6. They didn't list the findings for 1 vial of heart blood, the bile, or the hair. Either they didn't test them or they tested them and didn't list the findings. Particularly significant, you could just Google it, bile would reveal, and hair would reveal drug use, including psychotropic drug use, and also drugs they're able to be detected in bile and hair for far longer than they are in blood. So to me, this is just a huge scandal. Nobody's talking about it, and I appreciate you guys for giving me the platform.
Oh no, I mean, I was fascinated when I saw your report, of course, because it leads into another part, which is kind of, you know, I don't want to say near and dear to our heart, because I think both of us would rather it not be. But the simple fact is that we have a lot going on in this country right now, and a lot of it seems to always tie back to a certain foreign country. And this is no different in that this coroner is a freaking Israeli.
Yes. Not only that, he's like literally an IDF asset. And guys, I've always been
like, what are the odds, right, guys? Come on now, what are the odds?
Yeah, so I've been like a Ron Paul guy since 2008. I've always been Israeli skeptical, but it was never my thing. It was never like a top 5 issue until after October 7th. Now it's like every day, but I didn't go into this case being like, oh, I'm going to tie the Israelis to this and sell a bunch of books.
Right.
The facts are just what the facts are. And so his name is Ariel Goldschmidt. And if you Google his name in October 7th, you will find an article in the Pittsburgh Jewish Chronicle about him traveling to Israel after October 7th to identify the victims of the slaughter there. And not only that, he's pictured standing next to another Israeli doctor named Chen Kugel. I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. But Chen Kugel is the guy who made, as far as I know, you guys can correct me if I'm wrong, but totally fabricated claims of beheaded babies. Yeah. And there's no evidence to that. He's sticking to that to this day. So, you know, the significance of this, I have no clue, but we've got the guy who's over working for the IDF after October 7th, and like 7 months later, he's doing the autopsy for a guy who almost assassinated the president. He lets the body go for cremation with bullet fragments still inside of it, and he either doesn't test the bile or doesn't include the results. And does he also think there's beheaded babies? I would like to know what his opinion on that is.
I know I'm asking you to speculate a little bit, so feel free to refuse. But like, what would be the reason not to do the toxicology, like to test for the drugs?
Oh, I can answer if you don't.
Yeah, go. I'll let Mel get this one.
So definitely you would be, if there was a certain drug, obviously I'm always skeptic to say this, because I think if they can do this, they could probably just fix the results. So maybe they weren't confident that they could, in fact, fix the results. Maybe they just didn't want to risk it. But there are certain psychedelic drugs that they can put into people to I don't want to say mind control perhaps, but maybe make them more influenceable, more susceptible to suggestive behaviors.
So some kind of MK Ultra like
Some
thing.
kind of psychedelic that could,
Yeah.
and you wouldn't want that coming up, right? Yeah.
Right.
And I'll just stick to the facts. And the facts is that the CIA issued a public denial saying Crooks is not an MK Ultra subject.
All right.
Like, how many times did the CIA even feel the need to issue a public statement on such
Well, you
matters?
know,
that in alone was bizarre.
You know, CIA, if y'all are watching, that's cool. I probably believe you, but your buddies in that doesn't. You're not speaking for your friends, okay, overseas, right? Who may themselves have some reasons why they would or wouldn't want to Donald Trump. And I know right now he's doing everything they want, and maybe he got the message. Who knows? But yeah, I'm like, I'm always like, they're like, we didn't do anything. This is not our guy. Okay, well, is it someone else's guy? Maybe somebody could blow the whistle here.
Yeah, a buddy of mine, Jason Goodman, runs a little show called Crowdsource the Truth. He did go deep into the Pittsburgh Medical University's connections to MK Ultra, like back in the 60s. Again, there were 50, 100 different universities involved in that, so I wouldn't necessarily say it transfers over, but yeah, these questions should be asked for sure.
Oh yeah, I mean, I did actually last fall. I actually did a big thread. Didn't get nearly as much attention as I hoped, but it actually did get the attention of someone on the campaign. Anyways, it was about it was set in Philadelphia, but just this link to this kind of organized crime, and it's very Philadelphia, or the whole state of Pittsburgh. Well, the big cities, anyways. They just have a real problem with. I don't want to say it's a good old boy system because it's not, but it is certainly organized crime that has infiltrated a lot of areas of Pennsylvania politics. And I think anybody that's familiar with it knows exactly what we're talking about. And yeah, but I did a whole piece on Ozzie Myers, who was actually convicted of voter fraud, but he was running a pretty big scheme that ended up actually linking all the way up to the Pennsylvania Supreme Court. This was out of 2020. He was indicted in 2020, but the guy who kind of quote unquote took him down, but really swept so much of it under the rug, is another like former IDF guy who now is like the I believe the state secretary or Secretary of State of Pennsylvania. I can't remember his name off the top of his head.
Yeah. By the way, who's the governor of the state? I forget.
Yeah, another IDF guy. His name is Shapiro, right?
Ben Shapiro.
Right. Yeah. We know Ben Shapiro never served in the IDF. He's never going to be able to claim that. But no, so it's I don't want to say good old boy system, but it kind of is, right? It's a small club, and none of us are in it. That's for damn sure.
Yeah. Go ahead. Sorry.
No. Go ahead.
Okay, I was just. If we could go back to the medical examiner if you want, but I'll just another Israeli connection to this case is the spyware firm that cracked Crooks's phone is Celebrite, which is of course founded, I think, by Unit 8200 members. I think it's in Forbes broke the story about how they finally hacked Crooks's phone. Initially, they take it to the FBI's Pittsburgh office and they plug it into their Celebrite software, and it's apparently it wasn't high tech enough to crack Crooks's phone. This is the story. So they got to go to DC headquarters and say, hey, we need the latest, most advanced version of Celebrite. And they take it back. And Crooks is using a Samsung, by the way. He is a computer kid, so maybe he rigged up some advanced encryption, but they supposedly needed the latest version of Celebrite to go back and look through Crooks's phone. And the stuff on his phone is all the stuff that we have no idea what it is, like the encrypted apps and all his activity on gaming chat rooms where he might have been interacting with God knows who, like on Discord and Telegram and things like that. This is what we have no idea about, but we know the company that handled it is also Israeli.
But that's the thing. We still don't know anything about this kid, right?
Yeah.
To my knowledge, we still don't know anything about him. I think everything about this is weird. I think the fact that we haven't heard from the parents, the family, we don't have a bunch of friends, neighbors, nothing. I think we had like one or two. Like that was it. This kid was like a ghost, right?
Yeah.
And this is somebody that it's not like it'd be one thing if he were like 24 or 25 and had been out of high school for many years and just was a recluse and safe, but he was what, like 19?
He was 20 when he died.
20.
Yeah,
Right,
he completed his first 2 years of community college.
So he, again, still somebody still active in the community, essentially somebody who had gone out. You know, I mean, there are people who literally just don't leave their houses, right? Like maybe they go to Walmart or whatnot, or they go get food, but they just don't leave the house. But if you're at community college, you graduate high school, you go, you're not like that. And yet we haven't heard from any of these people. That's weird.
Yeah,
Weird.
That's right. But, you know, by all accounts, he was a good kid. Like his community college professors, the community college has been great. They've released all this information about, they've released his emails that he sent on the community college network. You know, there's a lot of feedback. He was a brilliant kid. He got, I think, like a 1480 or one of the highest scores you can get on the SATs.
Nice.
He goes to community college, gets like perfect scores. At one point, he even builds a 3D chessboard for his mom, who is blind. And the chessboard is like got braille on every square.
Wow.
So you could tell, like, you know, how to play chess for blind people. Very.
Why did he go to community college if he was such a high achiever?
It seems to be like socioeconomics. He was in a really kind of a working class Polish type neighborhood. I visited once. He also had high levels of lead in his blood, by the way, from the toxicology, which we think is because of the lead in the water from like the suburbs of Pittsburgh, heavy industrial area. Worked at a nursing home right down the street, helped prep food. All his teachers loved him. His high school classmates said he was quiet, but he wasn't like bullied. He wasn't like a trench coat wearer, not a Columbine kid. The college emails that I obtained show that at June 14th, less than a month before he's dead, he emails his some dean saying, "Where's my diploma? I'm attending Robert Morris in the fall, and I need all my transcripts and diploma to be able to attend engineering school in what has started in August, like a month after he died." So all the public information we know about him paints one picture, but the story that hasn't been told is what is he doing on Discord and these encrypted apps? What was his social media presence? We still don't know that. CBS did get some data, which I don't know if the FBI leaked it to it or what, but he did have a Twitter account. He did have Telegram. We just don't know what the handles were or who he was talking to, what he was into.
So strange.
I've been digging on JFK, right? For months now. And I've been reading, I mean, just everything. I have read so much. And something that is so bizarre about this case is how much we know about Lee Harvey Oswald and what they knew after the assassination. Obviously, you know, Kennedy died and whatnot. But again, the fact is that, you know, Oswald was dead 3 days later as well. So yet we've got, you know, the wife talking, we've got the neighbors talking, the friends talking. We know everything about him. And yet in a lot of it was either the family, you know, the people coming out and giving interviews, or what the FBI and everything released, right? It's in this case, it's been incumbent on people, independent journalists, to go find it. Because the FBI's like, man, he's dead. Why are you guys care? We figured it out. It was this kid on the rooftop. And that was it. Let it go. And it's the same thing they're trying to pull with Epstein right now, right? Let it go. He's dead. Everybody's dead. Just let it go. And it's a little bit like, what the is going on here? This is, again, so let's go from there. What did the FBI do initially? Because this is interesting to me as well. And it, again, ties into certain members of our American foreign policy class in the things that they want and the things that they push for. Is just that, I don't know if you all remember, but there was this big push for Iran is trying to kill the president.
Yes.
The Iranians put out a hit on the president. And so what did you find?
Okay, I will get into that. I just want to mention one more thing about Crooks.
Yeah,
Sorry, because this just adds,
go ahead.
Adds to what you were all saying.
Real quick, if you guys have questions, drop them in the comments. Okay, go ahead.
A friend of mine who did a show on Crooks's family. It's probably the best podcast to date on Crooks. Commendable Commotion, I think, is his Twitter handle, his Substack. The Panic in Bethel Park is the show, and it actually goes through my process of getting to the toxicology report. In the process, though, he reveals family history of Crooks that I had no idea about. His grandfather, we did know this. His grandfather was a Vietnam vet. His name was James Frizzy. He went on to be a civil engineer in Pennsylvania. But his son, I think either James Frizzy Jr. or John Frizzy, went on to serve in Iraq, and he was later appointed by Barack Obama to be a lieutenant colonel, and he now works at Fort Gordon in Georgia. He's actively a lieutenant colonel, and Fort Gordon is the home of an NSA center, I think an Army signals intelligence base. So again, the significance of this is unclear, but everybody's saying, oh, we don't know anything about Thomas Crooks, so I'm giving you facts.
Okay, yeah.
Another relative is Larry Macco, who's LinkedIn. He says he's an Army specialist, special forces veteran of some 30 years, works with federal law enforcement, is part of like a special forces union that's based out of Fort Bragg. So Crooks also did have very high-ranking military officials in his family. Just wanted to note that before we move on to, as you said, the FBI trying to suggest that Iran was involved. And that's something that's continued to be pushed to this day. I mean, like last month, I think Netanyahu went on Fox News and said, oh, it was the Iranians through their proxies that tried to kill Trump last year. Senator Ted Cruz told Tucker Carlson that, Iran tried to hire hitmen to assassinate Trump. And even Rabbi Shmuley has cited these supposed hitmen that Iran tried to hire last year to assassinate Trump. Well, who are these hitmen? They do, in fact, exist, but they are undercover FBI agents. This is a sting operation that's akin to like the Whitmer Fednapping case, where like they claimed the militias were trying to kidnap the governor, but over half those guys were undercover informants or agents. Looking at the few facts we have, this looks to be Whitmer on steroids. So I guess we could take it to the beginning. Case is Asif Merchant. ASIF and then Merchant as in merchant. He's a Pakistani guy who was arrested on July 12th, the day before Butler. Right. And then when they announced the case in August, immediately everybody starts freaking out and is like, oh, this can't be a coincidence. This had to be part of it. This guy was hiring hitmen to take out Trump, tried to leave the country the day before, and he's arrested. But when you look under the cover of this case, it just stinks to high hell.
I remember reading, I think, the indictment on this guy, and it was like, this is really, really, you guys are pushing it really hard on this. I mean, it's go on. Sorry.
Yeah, and actually, John Solomon over at Just the News has done some really good reporting on this case. He was leaked information that Merchant was let into the country in August or April, despite the fact that he was on a watch list. He was let in on something called the Significant Public Benefit Parole Program, which, according to Solomon's sources, and actually there is information on this online, this program is specifically designed for covert operations to either recruit informants or to let somebody into the country and just monitor him to just see who he's associating with. And John Solomon's sources further compared the decision to let him in to Operation Fast and Furious. This is basically,
yeah. It's
this is
nuts.
basically, yeah, this is basically a sting operation, highly controlled from beginning to end. Trump was never in any danger whatsoever. He's allowed into the country on April 2024. He immediately meets an FBI informant, and they start discussing, supposedly doing business, importing some yarn from Pakistan. And the indictment, if you read it, makes it sound like that the guy became an FBI informant after Merchant starts talking about killing Trump. But I read the court records closely, and this guy was already an FBI informant. And the reason we can come to this conclusion confidently is because if you read the indictment, it says that, like, in May 2024, they go to a hotel room that was wired for audio and sound. And that was the first time Merchant tells the informant about his plot to kill Trump. And so if they had the hotel room wired for audio and secret cameras in there, then obviously the guy was already an informant. He didn't just flip after he heard about this plot.
Right.
So.
Right. Yeah. It's I remember thinking, and also it's weird because he's ethnically Pakistani, right? But he holds the Iranian passport.
Yeah, and he apparently, I don't know if he's got like two different families. I think he's got a wife in Iran, and so he's definitely over there.
Yeah, I knew, but he was ethnically Pakistani, which would kind of, lend itself to, all right, well, where's the beef, right? It's not. Why would you go? Because of course, the whole thing that, where this stems from, Trump orders the assassination of Soleimani, who was, of course, an Iranian hero, and the Iranians were very upset about that. And there were some things that were put out. Specifically, there was this really weird video. I shouldn't say weird. It was just this kind of like AI video, which they kind of fantasize about assassinating Trump. I think it's with a drone that they do it, right? I think, I would say, I don't know why they do that, but we do that crap all the time. So I don't know. They were kind of just fantasizing about it because they're pissed off and they hated him. And something I thought was interesting was that the Iranians said they actually studied this, and they found that most Americans probably wouldn't care if Trump, there was a small contingent. You couldn't hurt America the way America had hurt Iran. There was no one who was revered the way Soleimani had been revered, right? Mm-hmm. And so, unfortunately, I hate to say it, but Americans were just not really that sentimental like that. I always say we make 9/11 jokes, so there's something probably wrong with the entire country's psyche to a certain extent, that we don't take anything seriously. So
yeah, it reminds me of that tragedy.
Yeah. I mean. So they actually found, from what I understand, the Iranians studied this, and they were like, well, there's nothing we can do to tick them off. We can't do 1-for-1 with them. And so they put out a couple videos, and then that was it really for 3 or 4 years. And then all of a sudden this Pakistani national shows up.
Well, the Pakistani national was actually the latest in a series of dubious sting operations. So yeah, they put out that video in 2022, and then all of a sudden the FBI, later in 2022, they claimed that Iran was trying to assassinate John Bolton. And in that case, it was some guy in Iran who was purporting to be a Revolutionary Guard member who, surprise, surprise, was talking to an FBI informant. They have the FBI informant actually take pictures of Bolton's house and send it back to the Iranian. And then they announced charges, but of course they can't make any arrests because the guy was in Iran talking to an FBI informant. It's unclear whether he was even in the Revolutionary Guard because he just told the informant that. There's no actual proof.
Hold on. Let me get this straight. So that whole Bolton case is around an FBI informant taking pictures of John Bolton's house and sending it to some rando in Iran that they can't even confirm is a member of the Iranian political or military class whatsoever. And we were paying $1 million a month for his, or maybe it wasn't a month, for his security. It was, except for I think it was $1 million. So it was like a $15 million a year contract for John Bolton's personal security because the Iranians were trying to kill him, except apparently it was just the FBI, dicking around with their compadres over in Iran at some point.
Yeah, that's as far as I understand. That's exactly right. I mean, the charging papers state that it was an FBI informant was the hitman. So another one was Mike Pompeo was supposedly nearly assassinated in France in 2022. This just came out in a book that's titled 2024, and it's published by a Washington Post, a New York Times, and a Journal reporter. They kind of all combined and wrote this big book that's a retrospective on the 2024 campaign. And they snuck in this scoop that says Pompeo was nearly killed in Paris in 2022. He barely escaped with his life, but the book doesn't provide any more details. Nobody was charged. And it's like, wait, are you telling me like Iranian had commandos in Paris and we didn't hear about it and nobody was arrested and nobody was killed? Like, I can't believe these mega Post and New York Times reporters are just regurgitating this slop that just comes from interviews with anonymous sources, like no documentation.
Yeah.
They strapped him down and pumped him full of Ozempic.
Well, yeah, I mean they did it with the beheaded babies and all the the fake rape
it's
stuff. So
yeah. Did you guys ever see that movie? Thank You for Smoking.
Yes, but a long time ago.
Christopher Buckley is one of my favorite authors. He's hilarious. You probably familiar with his father, Bill Buckley, who is like the father. Okay. He's like the father of neoconservative. Well, his son is actually an absolutely hilarious satirist and writes all of these books. I love all of his books. They are the only books I've ever read that make me laugh out loud as I'm reading them. Like, they're so funny. And there's the scene in Thank You for Smoking where he's like kidnapped, and because he's the smoking lobbyist, he's kidnapped, and they strap a bunch of nicotine patches to his entire body, and then he's like thrown out in front of the Lincoln Memorial. Nice. And so I imagine something like that with Pompeo, except for Ozempic in some form.
Hey, I would need to see those two guys in the same room, I guess. I don't know if it really is the same Pompeo. Let's get back on the merchant timeline. I think, so he met this FBI informant, and supposedly he told him about his plot. The FBI informant then introduces him to two undercover agents in New York, and he talks a big game about, I'm going to pay you guys hundreds of thousands of dollars to set up fake demonstrations and to sow chaos, to steal documents from offices. And the grand finale would be killing Trump. So he goes, he's going to pay this FBI agents in advance. And this is where it just gets comical. He doesn't have the money. He has to beg for it from like his Pakistani relatives. Eventually he gets like $5,000 was wired to from a cousin to another associate. The FBI informant picked it up and drove it and picked up him and gave him the money and then drove him to meet the undercover agents. And then he gave the FBI agents the money. So clearly it seems to me like this was always the FBI's cash and that they just handed him the bag at one point to make him criminally culpable. Yeah. That's what it really seems like to me. So he pays him a paltry $5,000 for this elaborate assassination plot. Says now we're bonded. A couple weeks later, he goes to leave the country on July 12th. He's arrested while he's leaving, attempting to leave the country. They put him in solitary confinement. The next day, Butler shooting happens. And hours later, you have agents flying to D.C., to his cell in Houston to interview him without any defense lawyers present. This was just revealed a couple weeks ago by the Washington Post, which, seems is obviously highly unusual. The Post said they exercised some special authority, like, this could be an active national security crisis, so we can't let this guy have any attorneys. They briefed Biden that night saying, oh, we're investigating whether this merchant guy is involved with crooks. They say he wasn't. Obviously, he wasn't. They transfer him to Brooklyn Metropolitan Detention Center. And ever since then, he's been in solitary confinement on the same floor where Puff Daddy was held, where Luigi Mangione, all these high-profile guys. Solitary confinement. His evidence is classified, so not even he's allowed to see it. They're using the Classified Information Procedures Act. He hasn't been able to look at any of the recordings of the undercover FBI agents because they say, oh, he might be able to smuggle it out and give this information to Iran, and then the lives of our undercover agents will be compromised. So when I tell you that this is the Whitmer case on steroids, that's what I mean, because at least with the Whitmer case, none of the evidence was classified, and we got to see a large quantity of it in discovery, which is how we know what a dubious case that is. Here, this is just totally locked down, solitary confinement, no evidence for anybody, not even the defendant.
Does he have an attorney? He has an attorney at this point.
Right.
His lawyer is another Israeli, but before you laugh at that, he has. It seems like he's done a decent job. He's written a couple. The reason we know he's in solitary and doesn't have access to the FBI recordings is because this Abraham Moskowitz, I think is his name.
Okay, I would like to talk to him. We'll see if we can get him on.
You could try. The interesting thing about him is I did look him up, and he initially represented Khalid Sheikh Mohammed, but then he's quoted in the New York Times saying, I'm such a staunch Zionist that I cannot represent the 9/11 people because it would be a conflict of interest.
Well, at least he was honest about that, and that's you said Abraham, what was it?
Moskowitz.
It might be in the story I DM'd
I'm sure
you.
It is.
He's got to be American too, right? Like a dual citizen.
Yeah. His specialty is these terrorism cases. He's worked in New York City for decades. If you look up Asif Merchant's attorney, it'll be very easy to find. He's listed on Pacer.
The name sounds familiar. I was a defense attorney in New York for like 10 years, so the name sounds familiar.
Okay, yeah, he seems to be pretty well respected, and like you said, he's at least brought these things to the public's attention. Although, I mean, this guy has been tortured, probably beyond the capacity to think. He's sitting in Brooklyn, NDC, solitary confinement for over a year, not talking to his family. At one point, he's supposed to meet this Moskowitz guy once a month, and the U.S. Marshals are saying we don't have, quote, the manpower to bring him to the courthouse.
That's
this
insane.
Yeah.
It pisses me off so bad. I mean, Janine, of course, was defense attorney. I worked as a paralegal for a defense attorney. We know how these things work. That is total bullshit. It's just bullshit. Right.
I mean, due process is due process. Like, you have it for a reason. The government shouldn't be able to override it because they make like nebulous representations about national security threats.
You have no contact rooms at the jailhouse. Give me a freaking break.
Yeah. His lawyer rightly pointed out that the only way this information would be smuggled out would be through corrupt prison guards. So, that's on you, bro. It's not an excuse to violate the Constitution.
Right. I don't know how they're getting away with it. I mean, I don't know how his attorney hasn't tried to file some kind of motion. That's odd to me.
Yeah, I mean, that's pretty egregious. I guess the procedures are being followed. So the last time I covered a Classified Information Procedures Act case was a couple years ago, where this Venezuelan government official was arrested for drug trafficking. And he claimed, like, no, I was working for the CIA. This was part of the anti-Maduro coup. And the DOJ he wasn't allowed to see CIA discovery because that was classified. So supposedly the CIA has all these documents about him working for him to coup Maduro, but he wasn't allowed to see that as part of his case. And so now the guy's doing like 25 to life just because he wasn't allowed to see documents that would possibly exonerate him. It's crazy.
It is, and y'all, please don't take my laughing as anything other than if I didn't laugh, I would be throwing something. Okay,
That's how I laughed.
yeah,
Like,
I'm
so
like this
ridiculous.
very weird. It's this very weird reaction I have to terrible news. I can't do anything but laugh because if I don't, I'm just not going to be able to control myself, and I'll probably get banned from Twitter for life. So.
Well, I'll give you one more banger, I guess, because there's one more dubious Iranian case that we should check off,
definitely,
so people
definitely.
don't
We
come
got plenty
back
of
at
time.
you with this.
Yeah.
So after the day after Trump, or not, a couple days after Trump won the election in 2024, there's all these reports that he's cleaning the house at the FBI. So the DOJ releases another case saying, "Oh, we foiled another plot where Iran was trying to kill Trump." And they charged 2 New York guys and a guy in Iran who were all supposedly conspiring to do this. But it turned out that the guy in Iran was actually a confidential source for the FBI. He had participated in a number of interviews in like October, September, and August, supposedly in exchange to get more leniency for one of his buddies who's in prison in America. And he's providing this information, including that, or my government is trying to assassinate Trump. Here's who involved. Here is who is involved. The plot includes 2 of my associates in New York. He provides all this information, and then the FBI turns around and makes him a defendant and slaps him on the criminal complaint, even though, again, they can't arrest him. So it seems like they just burned one of their sources in order to fabricate another fake case, because the New York guys are accused of stalking that Iranian dissident journalist, the one with the frizzy hair. You probably know who I was talking about. They were supposedly stalking her, but then like these details about the Trump plot were just included as kind of like filler, even though they're not part of the charges. So that's one more case that they announced. And last, while I was talking, sorry to ramble on too long.
No, go for it.
This is very important. After the second assassination attempt, which we'll also get to, Ryan Ruth in September,
right?
They transferred Trump to a, quote, decoy plane owned by Steve Witkoff. They told Trump that the Iranians have smuggled missiles into America, and their plan is to shoot your jet down with surface-to-air missiles.
Right, and just so everybody knows, this was also pumped by Sarah Adams, I believe.
Yes.
It is,
Sean
Sean Ryan, and Sarah Adams is the biggest. She's a fraud. Okay, that woman is a fraud. I don't give a damn if she was in the CIA or not. She is a liar. She is a fraud. She does not defend her positions because she cannot defend her positions because there is nothing truthful about. She will take a tiny detail of something and then she'll just extrapolate from. I don't actually even think she's working on behalf of anyone. I think that she's actually just a fraud and a liar, all on her own. She blocked me the second that she got challenged for the first. She followed me. I never followed her because I think she's stupid. And she blocked me, and then she talked a bunch of shit behind a block. So I had to like screenshot and quote tweet the whole thing, But anyways, yeah, she's the one that pushed this idea that the Iranians were sneaking across the border with surface-to-air missiles capable of taking down Air Force One, or not Air Force One, I take that back.
Trump
but
Force
it is,
One.
Yeah, Trump Force One, which I believe is the same style of aircraft, correct? I believe they're both, 737s, I think.
I think so. Yeah, I'm not positive on that.
Right. Size-wise, it's laughable. It's ridiculous. It's absurd. And if that did happen, they would have apprehended those people. I have to think that they would. Otherwise, then they're in on it. There's one of the two things is going on here, right? So
yeah, we'd be at war.
Right. Well, I'm like, if you mean to tell me that the Iranians snuck this across, and you know that this happened, but you haven't actually deployed significant resources to find these things and then apprehend those people. That makes no sense, right?
Yeah.
Like it would be a nationwide manhunt, and
Yeah.
yet nothing.
To me, it seems like they actually are running a psyop on Trump
Right.
and his campaign.
Exactly.
Because if you go back to this 2024 book that talks about the Pompeo plot, they also reveal new details about these Iranian missiles. At one point, the staffers are getting on Trump Force One. Trump's on the decoy plane, but a Secret Service agent still is like, "Keep down, keep your head down, and run." And it's like there's like a sniper
That's
risk or something.
crazy.
It's crazy. Yeah, it's absolutely crazy.
But that would explain why he's such a lunatic now. I'm not trying to make excuses. I'm not. Y'all, I'm not. But holy crap. And then they freaking shoot at him in Butler and literally clip his ear.
Yep.
I know I always got people in my mentions always saying, "Oh, so it was fake," or blah blah blah. I'm like, no, it wasn't fake. We have somebody that literally died. Number one. Okay. Number two, I will never, ever, ever agree with you that Trump was in on letting people shoot at his head. Okay?
Yeah.
This is an extremely, that's just dumb. It's dumb on so many levels, and I'm sorry, I don't buy it.
Yeah, we promise we'll just graze your ear.
Yeah, we know the bullet's real because Pulitzer Prize winning photographer Doug Mills captured the bullet whizzing by his ear. And then people are like, "Oh, well, how did Doug Mills know how to shoot at 1/9,000th of a second?" His camera.
Yeah, it's because you don't know anything about cameras. All right, he just snapped the picture. They're just continuously snapping pictures. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so yeah, we can dispel that. There's also, I'm pretty sure there's a picture where it shows the blood starting to appear before he reaches to his ear. So the notion that he cut his own ear while he went down, which by the way, any one of the 5,000 cameras, cell phone cameras could have caught him. The jig would have been up. You have to assume that Merrick Garland and Christopher Wray, who are trying to put him in prison, would be in on this. I mean, it's too wacky to take seriously.
Exactly. Yeah. The same people who are like, I don't know, I'm just like, you do realize that if he hadn't actually, and again, of course we know by the grace of God, it was a very small wound. He healed very quickly. But it did touch him, right? It did touch him because we know from his sudden reaction, right? And if that didn't happen, literally didn't happen, then why wouldn't the Democrats have just exposed it, right?
Yeah, exactly. And why would they? So you're saying there's nefarious forces that are powerful enough to stage this and then make it a big thing, but also the media that's controlled by these nefarious forces decided to memory hole it 2 weeks later. Why would they memory hole something that they fabricated?
Yeah.
Right. It's none of it makes sense. It's just dumb. It's dumb. And I get it because the thing is that none of it does make sense. The fact that they memory hold it, right? It's weird. It's really weird. And it's concerning. Again, you've actually shed more light on Thomas Crooks tonight than I think that I've ever read. And I'll be honest with you, by about September, I kind of just let it go because it was whatever. So what happens in September? Because that case is actually weirder in a lot of ways.
Yeah. To me, Ryan Ruth, the second would-be assassin who's hiding in the golf course, he's more like a Lee Harvey Oswald character, and we know a lot about him. Funny that you mentioned Sarah Adams, and I'll tie up the Iran story before we get into Ruth. These supposed Iranian missiles, Sarah Adams had dealings with Ryan Ruth in Ukraine. She actually knew him, supposedly warned all her CIA buddies saying, "Don't deal with Ryan Ruth. He's a bad guy. He's dangerous." But Ryan Ruth, we'll get into this deeper in 5 minutes, but at one point he tried buying missiles from Ukraine, and he had been in contact with Afghan commandos who were in Iran. So I believe that they spun up what happened with the Ruth case to fabricate the intelligence about Iranian missiles and the threat of surface-to-air missiles. And it's just funny that I didn't realize Sarah Adams actually mentioned that, but it would make a lot of sense that she was part of that stupid psyop. So, where to start with Ryan Ruth? I guess we can go with the incident in itself before we get into his background. So September 15th, Trump was going golfing that day with Steve Witkoff and Lindsey Graham.
Right.
Lindsey Graham.
He had an extended conversation with Sean Hannity just the night before. Sean Hannity was supposed to be at this meeting, and then he had to cancel at the last minute, which I always just thought was weird. But go on.
Well, yeah, Lindsey Graham canceled too. And I believe he was actually telling that to Sean Hannity the next night. He's like, "Oh, I was supposed to go golf with Trump, but something came up, and I told him."
Okay, so maybe I'm okay. Never mind.
Oh,
maybe I'm confusing the two.
I think it was Graham told Hannity that he had to cancel that morning. Another bizarre coincidence here is that according to the TASS congressional report, Trump decided that he was going to golf at a last minute the night before. The Secret Service was notified at 2:30 a.m. that Trump was going to golf later that day. And according to arrest warrants, Ryan Ruth started camping out at the golf course at 2:30 a.m. So it's like right when the Secret Service knows about Trump's golf plans. For some reason, Ruth, who had been camping out at a nearby truck stop, he goes to the golf course and he's there for almost the next 12 hours.
Wow.
Waiting in the bushes. 12 hours later, I think around 1 p.m. that day, a Secret Service agent spots him hiding in the bushes, shoots 5 times, misses all 5 times. Ruth runs away, gets in his Xterra. A witness sees him fleeing, snaps a picture of the license plate. Ruth is on the run for about 45 minutes until he's arrested, like county over, by Martin County sheriffs. The witness, because he gave the information to the Secret Service, they were able to put out a bolo and ultimately apprehend him. But otherwise, it could have been like that Minnesota assassin. He could have been on the lam for hours, if not days. That was kind of an interesting thing. And by the end of the night, unlike crooks, everybody had all this information on Ryan Ruth.
Right.
His criminal history stretches back decades. We knew this by like midnight that night, that he had multiple felonies. The FBI admitted the very next day at a press conference that they received a tip about him in 2019, that he was a felon in possession of a firearm in Hawaii. And the FBI, they're kind of trying to, in my opinion, they're trying to pretend like they're being transparent. They're like, "Oh, gosh darn it, we're sorry we didn't follow up on this tip. But, at least we're telling you we're being honest about this. It's our bad."
Right. And yet, incidentally, I'm sorry. Actually, go on. I forgot.
Contrary to what the FBI said, my own investigation, what I found is that he was actually on the Fed's radar for decades, since at least 2002.
So I remembered what I was, and yet incidentally, he also at some point served in Ukrainian forces, correct?
I thought you were going to say the IDF.
Don't get it mistaken. There's an IDF connection.
Oh, of course there is, right? But he did. So he's got this criminal background, but then he's going and serving for Ukraine.
Yeah, that's how
as well?
he knew Sarah Adams.
Of course he did.
We'll get there. Trust me, we'll get there. But let's do this chronologically.
Okay.
Because in 2002, up till then, he was like just a construction guy. For some reason, he took a real turn towards criminality in 2002. He had been running a construction business in the Greensboro area, employing illegal migrants for his business, his roofing business.
In North Carolina.
In Greensboro, North Carolina.
Yeah, okay.
He got into a fight with these guys in April of 2020, 2002, tries to run one. Apparently, he hasn't been paying them. They confronted him. He pulled out a sawed-off shotgun. They like all attacked him and grabbed the shotgun from him, but he gets in his truck and like runs straight at him, almost runs over one of these presumably Mexican guys. They call the cops. The cops come to the scene, and he barricades himself in his construction business. They finally get him out. They search the business. They find explosive components. They arrest him, take him to jail. While he's in jail, he calls somebody on a cell phone and says, "Hey, I've got explosives at another building that I own. Get these out before the police search that building too."
He did it on the jail phone. He did that.
No, it was a cell phone.
Okay.
Which is interesting because I presumed that it was on the jail phone and he was just an idiot and they overheard it. But no, it says, according to the police report that I have, Greensboro police was notified this by a police informant. I don't know if it was a jailhouse rat or if the buddy he called was actually an informant. But in any event, they get this tip. They go to the place of business and they find even more explosives. They charge him with this. He's released on parole pending.
Really?
Yeah, pending trial. In late 2002, he gets into another confrontation with police while these charges are still pending. He gets pulled over, and a police cop sees what looks to be like a Tommy gun, according to the officer. So they chase Ruth again. He barricades himself in his house. This is when he actually barricades himself into his house. They finally get him out, slap more charges on him.
Yeah.
The upshot of all of this is he's given probation, never serves any prison time. He was only in jail for a couple days for all of this.
Holy crap.
No.
So fast forward another 10 years. He's been getting in all these misdemeanor confrontations, still doesn't trigger any probation violations until he gets charged with more massive felonies. The Greensboro police get another tip from a confidential informant that his construction business was doubling as a fence for stolen goods. He was basically going to jobs. He was scoping out sites, they've got valuable copper wires, plumbing, construction equipment. He was having crackheads go to these sites after hours and tearing out all the valuables and selling it to him. And he would take the equipment, give the drug addicts their money. And this is like a massive scheme. He gets charged for that too, which triggers a probation violation. Except the very next day, a prosecutor says, "Oh, that was actually made in error. We're rescinding the probation violation." He gets another probation as far as the second set of felonies. And so all that, he doesn't go to jail at all either. Or at least he doesn't go to prison.
This is all still in Greensboro.
All still in Greensboro. We're talking about major felonies that could land you in a prison for decades.
Oh, yeah. I know.
Oh,
yeah.
That is crazy.
And so after all of that, at some point in the mid 2010s, he decides to go. I characterize this. He goes from like a dirtbag leftist to like a turbo liberal activist.
Many such cases.
Yeah,
all right.
Exactly. Like a typical Gen Xer. We don't know why he decides to go to Ukraine. I read his self-published book, and he just says that when Putin invades in 2022, he's like, "Oh, this is unconscionable. I got to do something." So he decides to go to Ukraine. He goes to Poland, crosses the border, sets up a volunteer center in Kiev. That's presumably where he meets guys like Malcolm Nance, that chef Jose Andres, Sarah Adams. Gets jammed up over there. Apparently the locals don't like him. They tear down his center. At one point, he hooks up with these Iranians, which is weird. I got to assume that they're pro-Western Iranians. And he talks about this engineering student from Iran that was trying to get him a visa to go to Iran. But he says Iran denied his visa, which is funny. That's like a good thing to cite, saying like Iran's not involved. Like, motherfucker, they wouldn't even let this crazy guy into their country.
Yeah, the Iranians are like, no, we want nothing to do with the monarchists whatsoever. Yeah. Okay, keep them out forever. And I do not blame them. Those people are insane. Yeah. Go on.
At one point, him and these Iranian student engineers go to the front lines with drones, and they're trying to, according to his book, they're trying to like give him to the military, and he's talking about feeling disrespected by the Ukrainians. Like, none of these people even want our help. Like, what are we doing over here? They're ungrateful. So who knows what was really going on there, but he packs it up. He calls his trip a failure. Last but not least, to tie Israel in here, because every single time in his book, I sent this to you, Mel, he says his, quote, best partner in Ukraine is an Israeli. And we could only presume that this guy is Israeli military or intelligence if they're over in Ukraine fighting a proxy war against Russia. Ruth also tied to the Israelis, and also the Israeli spyware firm Celebrite was used to access his phones too.
Wow.
So he says in here, and I'm not going to pull it up, but it says, while my best partner in Ukraine was a Jew from Israel and the hardest working, most giving person on the planet, I personally think that having your own country that is all of one religion is extremely cult-like. Well, you know.
So, yeah, most of that book is just him pontificating on, like,
that's what it sounds like.
The importance of democracy. But like, if you read it close, you find these nuggets, because he just dropped this out of random. Like, oh, my best partner was an IDF guy. Yeah,
that's very interesting. It's so nuts. Yeah. So when I hear these cases, right, because of course having worked several years in local North Carolina criminal defense, that's nuts. What you just described, especially, is just a local DA's dream, right? It's just low-hanging fruit that they love to pick, and they love to nail these guys. So it's weird to me that he would just continuously get off, right? Mm-hmm. On big, in the state of North Carolina, I don't know about other states, probably it's the same, but maybe not. A sawed-off shotgun is literally considered a weapon of mass destruction, okay? It's a WMD, all right? That's the charge if you are in possession of a sawed-off shotgun. So that's nuts that he would serve a day or two in jail and then just walk.
Oh, yeah, they'll kill your ass for that. Just ask Randy Weaver.
Right. They will literally murder your wife as she's nursing your child for a sawed-off shotgun. Okay. Yeah. Ask Randy Weaver.
And
read the.
Oh, sorry to interrupt.
No. Go ahead.
Before I forget about it, we know that he was on the Fed's radar because in that case, there's police reports saying that the ATF was notified and became involved in the investigation. So that's what I hinge on. My assertion that he is actually known to the feds for decades.
Right. Yeah. Because the sawed-off shotgun, people, we hear it all the time. But it's actually a really big deal to be in possession of one. It's a huge deal because they are very destructive. They, we don't need to go into why it is. If you don't know what it is, just go look one up, and it doesn't take much to figure it out. So so to hear these continuous, and these are big charges, what you're alleging, or not what you're alleging, but what is in the record, and just for this guy to never, and now he's in federal custody.
Yeah, and the interesting thing about him is he just fired his lawyers. He's insisting on self-representation, and Judge Eileen Cannon is allowing this to move forward. He's going to trial.
Is she the lady with the? Is she the one with the
Mar-a-Lago.
search? Right. Okay. I knew that name.
Yeah, the judge who has made favorable rulings, probably the correct rulings.
Right. Yes.
But she is, closely linked to other Trump cases. She's letting this go to trial on September 8th.
Okay.
even though Ruth is insisting on representing himself, and to me it looks like they're speed running this to trial in a possible just cover this up as quickly as possible. Let's throw him in the supermax, and that way we never can hear from this guy again. And also, just like the merchant case, he's got classified information in his case that he's not even allowed to see, probably because he was communicating with intelligence people from Ukraine. I mean, we know he tried buying a rocket launcher, tried buying a sniper rifle. This is all when he got back from Ukraine. After the Crook shooting failed to kill Trump, he texts one of the people. It said somebody he believes to be a Ukrainian, which is weird phrasing in the charging papers, but saying like, oh, we got to finish the job. Can you get me this? Can you get me that? He continued texting that guy. He was also texting a human smuggler in Mexico named Ramiro, whom I believe that he knew from his days of hiring illegals for his construction company, because he texts him, hey, this is Ryan Ruth from United Roofing. Presumably they knew each other from that. And then he's saying, oh, I might be seeing you in a couple of days. He was like planning an escape route through this guy named Ramiro in Mexico, who he was previously communicating with about smuggling Afghans from Mexico into the United States. So he was also into human smuggling at a time when, Biden had the borders wide open. Last thing I'll say about the Afghans, which I haven't read into this too much, but a couple weeks ago I saw a story about how Afghans in Iran were actually assisting Israel in their counter-Iranian operations. And so I just think it's interesting that Ruth was in contact with these same Afghans who, some of them at least, were also working against Iran. That's why they were just all deported.
Right. We know that Iran at some point figured that out, and that's why they forced, I think it was 150,000 of them back over the border.
Yeah, maybe they saw that he was they were talking to Ruth.
Right.
Maybe that's how Iran found out.
That's interesting. I'll have to look at that timeline, because that did actually come up, the expulsion of the Afghans at some point in last year, right? It was last fall, I believe it was. It was a huge exodus that they forced. Yeah. Do you know the name of the of Brian Ruth's attorney?
Not off the top of my head.
Okay, I'll find it. I'll find it. Yeah.
They're not his attorney anymore. I mean, the name of his attorney is Ryan.
Yeah. I know.
Well, there's that famous saying of the person who represents himself as a fool for a lawyer, as a fool for a client or whatever.
I get the sense that he feels like he's going to give some inspirational speech to the jury about what he was doing, and that he's going to win the day and then walk out of the courthouse triumphantly.
It's such a bad idea. You need someone who's emotionally detached.
The DOJ has been filing a number of motions to prevent him from making certain arguments for jury nullification, or that he was justified in his actions because Trump is a tyrant. And, to his point, I think Ruth actually has a case. He's like writing letters back. He's like, should I just be totally mute? Should I show up to court at all? He's being kind of snarky. So I'm like, you tell him what it is, Ruth, because they want to present certain evidence like his text messages, but they won't allow him to admit other text messages because they call it hearsay. But it's like, how can you admit your own hearsay evidence without letting him do the same? It's unequal justice. So it seems
there's technically, it depends, but the defendant's own statements can be admitted, but the other people's can't. That's like an exception to the hearsay rule.
He needs a lawyer.
He needs a lawyer.
He needs a lawyer, and he needs to be honest with his lawyer about what's going on. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's not even that, though, because he left, for example, he left this Dear World letter with an employee saying, oh, if you're reading this, I failed, I'm sorry. And in that letter, he offers like $100,000 bounty for anyone who can complete the job. Well, the DOJ wants to enter some of that letter as evidence, but he's not allowed to enter the entire letter And he's like, "Oh, you don't get the whole context unless you get the entire letter."
Right.
But
No,
they're claiming that portions of the letter is hearsay, but portions can be used as evidence. It just doesn't seem fair.
That's ridiculous. He's definitely right about that, but he also needs a lawyer.
Yeah, he does. Oh, for sure he does.
Hey, everybody wants to be a Ted, but there was only one Ted. That's for sure.
Are you talking about Ted Bundy?
No, I'm talking about Ted Kaczynski.
Kaczynski. Because Ted Bundy also
he was
also
actually
represented.
Brilliant. Yeah. He was actually
He's no Ted Kaczynski, that's for sure. I mean,
yeah.
After he got charged, his son got slapped with child abuse charges, and which are legit. Like, I've sat through that case. It's not like the Las Vegas shooting where they're trying to shut up the brother. It turns out the police had been actually received a tip before the assassination attempt, and they only followed up on it after Ruth came onto their radar. And then he was sentenced actually 2 days ago. I was at his sentencing, and his dad, Ryan, wrote a letter to the judge saying, "Hey, you should send me, Oren, and a lot of other prisoners to the front lines in Ukraine. That should be our punishment. Like, the prisoners should help out in the war efforts, and that would be our contribution to our way to restore society for our crimes." Like, that's his brilliant idea. It's just like, I don't think Ukraine would want that.
No.
I don't think that Ukraine is necessarily opposed to having criminals on their front lines, but
yeah, it would be good cannon fodder, I guess.
Yeah, I don't actually understand this kind of affinity to Ukraine, but from Americans per se, whatever. I'm not getting into it.
Well, that's a topic for another day. I've got to go because I have to put my son to bed. But
thank you so much. You are such a wealth of knowledge, Ken. And we're going to have you back very soon. You're going to these hearings in September?
I wish. That's down in Florida. The kid's case was in Greensboro, and I'm within driving distance. Unfortunately.
Where are you at, if you don't mind saying?
Yeah, I'm in the Charlotte area.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I'm in Fayetteville, so.
Cool. Very cool.
Yeah. All right. Well, we will talk to you soon about this.
Yeah.
This is so fascinating. You have so much knowledge on it.
Yeah. Well, we covered literally everything. Like, that was the last thing I had for you.
Yeah.
Perfect timing.
Thank you so much. And we'll definitely have you back. And hang on one sec after we stop recording.